My phone buzzed at 11 at night, and the words on the screen made my stomach drop before I even understood what I was reading. New account activity detected. 4 accounts. 4 accounts I never opened, tied to a home I hadn't even closed on yet. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed in my apartment in San Diego, still in my uniform, staring at that screen like it was written in a language I used to know but had suddenly forgotten. Welcome back to the Family Revenge Tales. My name is Maddie Callahan. I'm 35 years old and I've spent the last 14 years as a Marine, currently a gunnery sergeant stationed at Miramar. If you'd asked me a year ago what I was proudest of, I wouldn't have said my rank or my medals. I would have said that for as long as I can remember, if my name was on something, I took care of it. If my name was on a piece of equipment, I accounted for it down to the last screw. If my name was on paperwork, I read every line before I signed it. If my name was attached to a debt, I paid it on time, every time. That wasn't just a personal quirk, it was who I was. It's the thing my family always said they admired most about me. I should have known that admiration and convenience can look exactly the same from the outside. For years, I'd helped my mother, Judith, and my younger sister, Kelsey, without keeping score. When Kelsey needed help with her deposit on her first apartment, I sent it and never brought it up again. When Mom's car needed a repair she couldn't cover, I paid it and told her not to worry about it. I never asked for receipts. I never made anyone feel like they owed me a spreadsheet of gratitude. I believed, genuinely, that helping family wasn't supposed to feel like a transaction. I thought that was generosity. Looking back now, I understand that what I was actually doing was training my family to expect it. Reliability, when you're not careful, quietly turns into entitlement. Nobody announces the moment it happens. It just happens, and by the time you notice, it's already the water everyone's swimming in. I had been saving for 6 years to buy a townhouse in Oceanside. Not a huge place. 2 bedrooms, a small patio, close enough to the base that I wouldn't lose my mind commuting. I used to lie awake and imagine where my couch would go, which room would become my office, the exact spot on that patio where I drink my coffee every morning before work. I had never owned anything that was entirely, completely mine. Every dollar of that down payment came from years of deployments, extra duty, and saying no to things I wanted so I could say yes to that one thing. My lender told me everything looked clean. We were 4 days from closing. Then came that message at 11 at night. I didn't call anyone that night. I didn't cry, though I wanted to. I did what I've been trained to do when something doesn't add up. I started documenting. I pulled my full credit report and printed it out on the little printer in my apartment. And I built a spreadsheet, because that's the language I trust. Account opening dates, addresses, purchase locations, dollar amounts. I laid it all out in front of me on my kitchen table like it was a supply manifest, because, in a way, that's exactly what it was. Someone had taken inventory of my identity and started spending it. The first account was a furniture store credit line. I recognized the purchases immediately because Kelsey had posted photos of that exact same living room set online 3 weeks earlier. The second was tied to a tire shop, and the charge matched almost exactly what it would cost to replace all 4 tires on Dylan's truck, Dylan being Kelsey's husband. The third was a home improvement account, materials that lined up with a bathroom Kelsey had mentioned wanting to redo in her apartment. And the fourth one was different. It wasn't furniture or repairs. It had been used to cover expenses for a small business Kelsey had started a few months earlier, one that hadn't taken off the way she'd hoped. 4 accounts, all opened while I was away on a training exercise, all opened using information that a stranger simply would not have had. Someone knew my mother's address well enough to use it. Someone knew exactly when I'd be gone long enough not to notice. Someone answered security verification questions that only a person close to me could answer. This wasn't some faceless criminal on the other side of the world. This was someone who studied my absence like it was an opportunity. I called my mother the next morning. I didn't accuse her of anything. I've learned in the Marine Corps that when you walk into a situation swinging, people stop giving you information and start protecting themselves. So I asked her calmly, "Mom, did Kelsey ever need information from my old files? Anything with my social on it?" There was a pause on the other end of the line, long enough that I already knew the answer before she said a word. "Your sister needed help," she finally said. That single sentence told me everything I needed to know. My mother wasn't confused. She wasn't shocked. She knew. And worse, in her mind, this wasn't theft at all. Over the next few days, Judith explained it to me like she was laying out something reasonable. Kelsey's rent had gone up. Her business hadn't taken off the way she'd hoped. Evan, my nephew, needed things kids need. Dylan's truck needed those tires or he couldn't get to work. And then my mother said something that I don't think I'll ever forget as long as I live. "You have a stable career, Maddie. You don't have kids depending on you. You're the strongest one in this family, and you weren't even using that credit anyway." I sat there with the phone against my ear and realized my mother genuinely did not believe she had done anything wrong. In her mind, she hadn't stolen from me. She had redistributed something that, in her heart, she believed belonged to the family as a whole. My name, my credit, my future. All of it, apparently, was just another shared resource, like a set of dishes in a cabinet that anyone could reach into when they needed something. I needed to understand where this thinking came from, so I drove out to see my Aunt Marjorie, my mother's older sister. Marjorie has always been the one who tells the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, and she didn't disappoint me that day. She told me that when my mother was young, she was the strongest one in her own family too, and when relatives needed help, it was always Judith who was expected to give something up. Her opportunities, her savings, her time. Nobody in that house ever called it exploitation. They called it loyalty. They called it love. "Your mother learned a long time ago," Marjorie told me, holding my hand across her kitchen table, "that love means being the one who goes without. She's not doing this to hurt you, sweetheart. She's doing the only thing she was ever taught to do." I understood my mother a little better that day, but understanding where something comes from doesn't make it acceptable to carry it into the next generation. I wasn't going to be the next name on that list of people who quietly gave everything up and called it love. I reported the fraudulent accounts to each financial institution. An investigator named Erin Holloway called me about one of them, and what she told me made my chest go tight. One of these accounts required someone to physically show up and provide verification in person. This wasn't a case of someone guessing a password online. Someone had stood in front of another human being and used pieces of my identity to convince them they had the right to do it. When I looked closer, I found out Dylan had been there for part of it. When I finally got him on the phone, he sounded exhausted, almost relieved to finally talk about it. "I thought Judith had permission," he said. "She told you you'd never say no if you knew what Kelsey was going through." That sentence is the one that changed everything for me. My family never planned to ask me. They planned to explain it to me afterward, once it was already done, once there was nothing left for me to decide. I had enough evidence at that point to file a police report, but I sat with that decision for 3 full days. Because I understood exactly what it would mean. It would mean serious consequences for people I loved. It would mean my mother's finances would be reviewed. It would mean Kelsey's business funding could be frozen. It would mean Dylan could lose his job while the investigation played out. I could make all of that go away quietly. I could pay off every dollar of that debt myself and let the account stay open under my name, and nobody outside our family would ever know a thing. But if I did that, my mortgage would still be in danger because those fraudulent accounts would remain attached to my credit either way. And there was something else. I serve in a role that requires periodic security reviews. Unexplained debt and financial irregularities are exactly the kind of thing that can derail a career if they surface the wrong way, at the wrong time, without an explanation already on record. For the first time in my life, I had to choose between protecting my family and protecting my own future. And I want to be honest with you, that choice nearly broke me. I filed the report. I gave the investigators everything, including the parts that made me look careless. I admitted I had given my family access to old files years ago without thinking twice about it. I admitted I trusted people I should have set boundaries with long before this happened. But one fact never changed, no matter how I looked at it. I never gave anyone permission to use my identity. Not once. Once that report was filed, I discovered something important. I could tell the truth. I could not control what happened to it once it left my hands. The consequences came fast. Kelsey's business financing was frozen while the investigation continued. Dylan was suspended from his job pending review. My mother's own accounts came under scrutiny. And instead of anyone in my family asking why my identity had been used without my knowledge, they asked why I hadn't just handled it privately. My mother told relatives, she could have taken care of this quietly instead of dragging all of us into it. I realized then that my family wasn't angry because I had been wronged. They were angry because I had refused to lie about it. My lender put my mortgage into manual underwriting because of the disputed accounts. Every single day I checked my email, waiting to hear whether the townhouse I had spent 6 years preparing for was going to slip through my fingers because of decisions I never made. I want you to understand something. I would have paid almost anything at that point to make it go away easily. But paying someone else's fraudulent debt just to save my closing date would have meant admitting, on paper, that what happened to me was somehow fine. I couldn't do that. Not even for the house I loved. My mother came to me with what she called a solution. If I signed a statement saying I had given permission for the accounts to be opened, everything would go away quietly. Kelsey would avoid the worst of it. Dylan would get his job back immediately. My mother looked at me across her kitchen table, the same table where I used to do my homework as a kid, and said, "You can save everyone with one signature." I looked down at that single page, one signature, one lie, and I understood immediately that if I signed it, the debt would legally become mine forever. And worse, I would be teaching my entire family that this was acceptable, that my name really was something they could use whenever they needed it, as long as they apologized nicely enough afterward. Then my nephew Evan called me. He's 8 years old, and he doesn't understand credit reports or fraud investigations. He only understood that his mother had been crying for days. He asked me, in the smallest voice, "Are you mad enough that you're not coming to my birthday?" I had to sit down on my bathroom floor when he asked me that. I told him none of this was his fault, not even a little bit. I told him I loved him and that I would be there for his birthday no matter what. But hanging up that phone, I understood something clearly for the first time. Loving a child in my family didn't mean I had to let the adults around him destroy my future to make his life easier in the short term. I refused to sign the statement. My mother called me selfish. Kelsey cried on the phone and told me I was choosing my house over my own family. Dylan apologized over and over in a way that sounded more like fear than remorse. Aunt Marjorie told me she understood, but she wished there had been another way. I looked at all of them and said the only thing I really had left to say. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm refusing to put my name on something that isn't true. Then I walked out of that house. I knew this investigation could eventually surface during my next military security review, so I made a decision that terrified me more than anything else in this entire ordeal. I went to my first sergeant, a man named Caleb Whitlock, and I told him everything, including the parts where I looked careless, where I hadn't protected my own information the way I should have. I didn't ask him to protect me from the consequences. I just told him the truth and let it sit there. My career review started not long after that. I was pulled from consideration for an assignment I had worked toward for years. I lost my promotion opportunity for that cycle entirely. For months, I genuinely did not know if my career was going to recover from any of this. My family blamed me for everything that had gone wrong. My future felt uncertain in almost every direction at once. There was a night I sat in my car in the base parking lot and asked myself if doing the right thing had actually just ruined my life. First Sergeant Whitlock said something to me that I still carry with me to this day. He told me, doing the right thing doesn't guarantee you won't pay for it. It guarantees you'll know exactly why you paid. I didn't feel better right away, but I never forgot it. Eventually, the investigations closed. The evidence confirmed everything I had already known. My identity had been used without my authorization. The fraudulent accounts were removed from my credit file. My military review closed favorably, though it took months longer than it should have. I lost that assignment. I lost that promotion cycle, and I lost the original townhouse because by the time everything cleared, someone else had already closed on it. Those losses were real, and I'm not going to pretend they didn't hurt, because they did, for a long time. But I protected something that mattered more in the end: my name. Months later, Kelsey started sending me small restitution payments. The first one was $50. I didn't laugh at it, and I didn't send it back out of pride. I deposited it, and I sent her a receipt. For the first time in our relationship, there was something in writing between us. Not because I wanted revenge, because I refused to keep living inside an arrangement where everyone assumed I would quietly absorb whatever it cost. I told her, I don't need you to fix everything today. I need you to understand that my name is not family property. I bought another townhouse eventually. It's smaller than the one I originally wanted. It doesn't have the same patio I used to picture in my head. But there's one detail about that new mortgage that means more to me than any square footage ever could. Only my name is on it. Nobody else had to give permission for me to own it, and nobody else can ever claim they had a right to it. I framed the approval letter and hung it near my front door, not because I'm proud of the house itself, but because I'm proud of exactly how I got it. I'm still Evan's aunt. I still go to his birthdays. I still bring him presents, and I still answer the phone when someone in my family genuinely needs emotional support. But the financial boundary I built that year is permanent now, and it isn't going anywhere. I help when I choose to help. Nobody decides that for me anymore. Being the strongest person in your family doesn't mean you were put on this earth to carry everyone else. My family taught me, without ever meaning to, that love was supposed to mean giving away everything I had. It took losing a house, a promotion, and almost a year of my life to finally understand something simple. Love without boundaries isn't love at all. Sometimes it's just permission, dressed up in a word that's supposed to feel warm. If this story moved you even a little, if it reminded you of your own family, your own name, your own boundaries you've been too afraid to set, I want you to hit that subscribe button and stay with us here at the Family Revenge Tales. We tell these stories because so many of you are living some version of them right now, quietly, without anyone else in your life ever fully understanding why it hurts so much. No matter how long you've spent being the reliable one, the strong one, the one everyone else leans on, you still get to decide what you give and who you give it to. That decision was always yours. It still is. There is real value in a story like this, beyond the emotion of it. It teaches that generosity without boundaries can quietly become exploitation, even inside families that genuinely love each other. and that the people doing the exploiting often don't see themselves as villains at all. It shows how financial abuse within families frequently hides behind the language of loyalty, need, and love, which is exactly what makes it so difficult to recognize and even harder to confront. It demonstrates the real, practical importance of monitoring your own credit and financial identity, even when you trust the people closest to you completely. And most importantly, it offers a model for healthy conflict resolution. Maddie doesn't seek revenge, doesn't cut her family off entirely, and doesn't pretend the relationships are simple afterward. She simply insists on honesty, accepts real consequences for standing by the truth, and rebuilds her relationships on a foundation of respect instead of quiet resentment. That is a lesson worth carrying into any family, in any home, watching this story right now.